Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Jewish Week Online. I'm your host, Aaron Herman. We had the opportunity to speak with Sari Singer, Executive Director and founder of the nonprofit Strength to Strength that helps victims of terror around the globe. We spoke with her about the recent guilty verdict for the Arab Bank and the rally to cancel Death to Klinghoffer at the Met. Let's take a closer look. Looking at a terrorist attack, it doesn't just happen. It's a well-funded operation. To do an attack, you need to pay for bombs. You got to pay for drivers, getting them to places. You got to there's an intricacies that's involved. It's not just like I hate Jews or Israelis or any other type of individual, but there's a significant planning process, and somebody has to pay for it. There might be some back office types of money changing, but banks are involved, and you got to follow that money. And how, like, the Arab Bank, over the years was able to fund Hamas through charities or have secret accounts that are solely for Hamas leaders is like unbelievable. And one of the quotes that I read was that this would shake the banking system. Well, shake it. Like why not show that these things are happening? These aren't just like, oh, we have an account here for the Hamas leader. We'll keep that secret. No. Show that, because they are terrorists and you are a bank. There's a clear distinction.
And it's also funny you say that, because I think most people don't realize what is going on because it doesn't affect them. And we all think like, we have enough to worry about. Life is crazy. Life is busy. There's obligations. We don't think about things that haven't happened to us. But we also have to realize that in going forward, this could affect us and that we have to do something now to stop it. And to think that these banks play a role in hurting and murdering innocent people makes no sense to me, because probably, the average American or the average person doesn't realize these things are really going on, but they are. And I saw it when I sat in the courtroom listening to the experts. And it's unbelievable that anybody could justify and say that they didn't do anything wrong when it's clear in black and white that the banks are responsible. And hopefully, again, this will shake it up enough that more banks will be held responsible, that the control of this will be tighter, that we won't have terrorists being able to finance their attacks going forward, because the banks will be held more accountable to a higher standard.
Going back to the death of Klinghoffer, now everyone has their own way of bringing art to the forefront, but this seems like it's just bizarre. Like, even like the death of Klinghoffer, like it's clearly a terrorist attack. And
it should be the murder of Klinghoffer.
Yeah, and a murder, and it's considered like an art. Like, how do you respond to that?
I'm all for artistic expression. I think it's important, but the goal of this opera was to, and the composer said this, to show the humanity of the terrorists, and that in turn, what it does for victims, it denigrates the humanity of a victim and what the Klinghoffer family went through and what they continue to go through every day. This doesn't end after a day or a week or a month or a year. This is a lifelong trauma that people deal with in terms of losing loved ones to terrorism or being injured. And for the New York City, of all places, where 9/11 is not that far back in our minds, yet people are slowly forgetting the impact that 9/11 had on New York City. But for us to be able to say that it's artistic expression to glorify and to justify what the terrorists did on that day, or any terrorist, that goes against everything that this country stands for. And to me, that's not artistic expression. That is glorifying terrorism and trying to tell people this is why it was okay what happened. And we need to stand up against this, not only those of us that have been directly impacted by terrorism, but every single human being who understands moral and just things needs to come out and say there's something wrong with our culture and our country, that this is happening in the one place in this country where we understand it better than anywhere else. Are they going to do something about 9/11 next and glorify the terrorists that went into the World Trade Center or the Pentagon or Shanksville? Are they going to do something about the Boston bombers and say why they did this, because of their life or whatever they've been through? There is no justification for hurt and murdering innocent people. And I don't care what your life has been like. I don't care what you've been through. We all have things we go through. It's how we handle those things and how we present ourselves as human beings that make us better people. And these terrorists, their goal is to murder and to really paralyze and instill fear. And this opera really signifies that to the public. And I wish that more people would come out against it. I wish that people would understand not only what this is doing to the victims, and I've spoken to victims all over the world that do not understand how this is happening and why this is being allowed to be performed in New York City of all places. And there should be a sensitivity more to what people go through after terrorist attacks, but I can't blame people who don't understand. It's a hard thing to comprehend what it's like life before and life after a terrorist attack. And I think that for the Klinghofers, this just brings back and re-traumatizes what they've been through. And I wish that the Met and Peter Gelb and those involved and the donors would really understand and take this seriously to say, you know what, this shouldn't be going on in New York City. We need to be more sensitive and understand the impact of terrorism, because we don't see it that much here in the United States. But when I go overseas and I speak at different conferences and I interact in Europe, it is so far. The comparison is completely different. The radicalization that's going on in Europe, I think if people really understood it, they'd be scared and there'd be more people coming out against this. But we don't live in the environment where people really understand the complexity and the magnitude of what terrorism is doing and the radicalization that's going on all over Europe and in other parts of the world. And that really is something that people need to educate themselves better and learn more about, so we can stop things like this from happening going forward. Because this opera is definitely not the end, and if we allow this to go on and we don't stand up and say that something's wrong with it, the next thing that happens could be against somebody else. It doesn't have to be terrorism, and it'll be used as artistic expression. And that to me is just completely wrong and against everything that we've been brought up in this country to believe in.
Yeah, it's something that just amazes me, is that if you can think about what the opera is about and what it does to the families, it opens that wound such to a point where it's almost insulting. It's like it's not just this idea of this artistic expression and glorifying these terrorists, but it's hurting these families that went through so much already, and it's so disheartening. How has social media helped you bring people together to rally against these type of things?
So social media to me is so amazing. I don't understand half of it, but I'm seeing the way that people are taking to Twitter and people are commenting and articles are being put out there, and Facebook and Instagram and all these different social media outlets, which are helping to get the word out for people who might not know what's going on in New York. Because again, this is not just a problem going on here in New York. This should be a problem for our entire country and really the world, in terms of the fact that there were different places in the past where this show was supposed to be performed and then it didn't. I would hope and wish that this would happen in this situation, that we would be able to have somebody hear what we're really saying and understand and say, you know what, even though it would sound really terrible for us to cancel this right now, let's take a stand. Let's stand up for those victims and give them the voice and give them the validation for what they've been through. And that would be the ultimate thing. But I think we really don't understand in this country what terrorism is. We don't understand the magnitude. We don't understand the money trail. All of this stems together in a bigger picture, whether it's the Arab Bank case or the Klinghoffer opera. It's all one big picture of the fact that people still don't understand or get what terrorism is and what it does. And, they're just realizing that in Europe, and there's a lot of stuff going on in Europe in terms of combating radicalization. I'd like to see that done more here. I'd like to see our government and the State Department and the Department of Justice come out and really start doing more to make people aware of what's going on in the world so we can better protect ourselves in this country.
As you can see, through rallies and litigation, we declare in one voice that it's wrong to support terrorist activities. This is Aaron Herman, and thank you for watching.